Hi, welcome back to Transform Your Impact. My name is Alexa Henderson, and we are meeting with successful business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives, and thought leaders to bring you the keys to making a massive difference in the world, being wildly successful, and also living a life of purpose. Stephen is the author of Success from the Inside Out, Jumpstart Your Creativity, and the 5-Minute Secret, which shares the exact blueprint for how to grow your business with none of your own money and how to access the most powerful and successful people to become your mentor and strategic advisor. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Stephen.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Awesome. So will you just share, you've launched some new stuff. Will you share with us
Sure.
what you're up to and what you're most excited about?
Sure, absolutely. So the most exciting thing is I've decided to really focus in 2019 on launching my Leverage Accelerator Mastermind, which is about helping speakers and consultants and thought leaders package their best intellectual property or their greatest programs and license those to corporations and universities. And it's really a major leverage opportunity because so many of these people spend their lives, and I've done it myself for 18 years, they spend their lives in airplanes. And so I'm trying to help them impact more people, but also perhaps not have to be on so many airplanes. So they can be home with their kids or with their spouse and so on.
Oh, that's so great. Will you tell us a little bit more about, like, for somebody who's not in this space already, like what does that look like?
Sure. So in terms of Mastermind, the really neat opportunity is one of the things that I've spent my life doing is I really see myself as a connector, and it's really not about me. It's about me being a facilitator or a connector for others. And one of the things that clients told me was, Steven, you help me take my impossible and make it a reality or make it possible. And so what's exciting about that is launching a mastermind the way we're going to do it. It's about helping people get access to each other, meaning if they're speakers and consultants, for instance, they might have clients like UPS or Coca-Cola or Walmart, and their client may have interest for subject matter expertise that another member of the mastermind has. So that's a neat opportunity to support each other. The other thing is to come together face-to-face and focus on the business and talk about what are their biggest challenges, what's the one thing, if you were to fix that or address it, that would make the biggest impact. And so it's really about learning from each other and leveraging that. And then really my role is to facilitate, but what I'm excited about, since I've been a speaker and a consultant for 18 years, is help people understand what resources and what it is that they need. I really want to show them that those are the tools and resources they need to make it possible.
So you have this great career that you've created, and I'm wondering what some of the things that you're most proud of are.
Sure. First off, I would say building a lifestyle after having both a corporate job and a corporate experience a couple times with Disney, and then also with a company that we ended up selling to Compass Group. But in addition to corporate, having all the entrepreneurship experience that I have. So I would say right off the bat is building a lifestyle that has allowed me to be home for the last 13 years and help raise our son, meaning when he was little, we used to take the Golden Doodle and walk to the end of our private road, and I would see him get on a wonderful bus and go off to his school, or I would drive him to school. So it's really about being present in my son's life. He did experience bullying, and that 2.5-year journey was excruciatingly painful for anybody that's ever experienced it. But what I would say is, because I'd created the lifestyle to have time freedom, I was able to be there for him. And then we also have an adopted daughter from South Africa, and that wouldn't have been impossible. So I'm most proud of the fact that we've been able to live a big life, live beyond ourselves, which is what my wife and I committed. And then the other piece is I'm most proud of the fact that my wife, as a filmmaker, has been able to go to more than 30 countries and create films as well as a feature-length documentary. So on the personal side, that's what I'm most proud of. And then in terms of career, I would say a couple things. One, is building a company and after I left Disney World, going to a privately held company and being able to grow that from 135 million to 700 million in revenue, and then seeing the power, another example of leverage, of selling that privately held company and seeing the founding CEO turn more than 50 people into millionaires and how he transformed their lives. And that was really exciting. And that's a freedom and a leverage opportunity that I'm really proud of. The other thing I would say, just on a personal note, is, I mean, there's so many, but one would be, when I was at Disney World, I worked in both housekeeping and front desk for the hotels and opened 5 resorts. But one of my real passions was in housekeeping, and then I also opened the 3rd largest laundry in the world. And we had employees from all over the world. And many times in housekeeping and laundry, if you don't speak English, you end up in that area backstage at Disney, and it's understandable. But what I would say is this: over a 2-year period, myself and 3 other managers at the laundry, we were able to have a junior college from the local area in Orlando come over and teach English for speakers of other languages. And so there are 71 people who became proficient in English, and because of that have been able over the last 15 years to get promoted out of the laundry. There's a real thread, which is, it's not about me. And I learned at a very young age because I had a mentor when I was 15 named Will Rogers, who was an elder at my church. And he's the one that introduced me to entrepreneurship. And I started a lawn service at age 15. And at age 19, as I was transitioning from in college, we actually were able to sell some of the parts of that business to other local landscaping services. And it changed my life. So I would share with people that when you hear this old adage, we can't be successful on our own, or it always, takes a village, or it's really great to have mentors. What I would say is, I believe sadly that way too many people know it, but they don't do it.
Mm.
And they simply are living a life, whether it's a corporate job or as a homemaker or as a parent or as an entrepreneur. I think what they do is they end up slogging it through and working really, really hard because they didn't leverage the gift of all these resources and all these people. So that's really one of my passions. But it started when I was 15 years old.
Well, I'm also hearing in there that really genuinely caring about others is a pretty important part of the recipe too.
Yep. In fact, the Gallup Strengths Finder, where you identify your 5 strengths and you go through their online survey and all that. What's interesting is one of my strengths with Gallup Strengths Finder is individualization, which is an interesting term, individualization. And it's simply validated for me because the definition of individualization from Gallup is, and this is paraphrased, is being genuinely fascinated, intrigued, interested, genuinely interested in, when I interact with an individual, what makes that person truly unique. And that's an interesting notion, because if you have this conversation with some people, they honestly don't know what you're talking about. In other words, they're like, no, I don't, what? No, I don't have that level of granular focus in terms of people. So I really do believe that strengths and what Gallup's done is helpful for people to figure out what it is they're wired to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, individualization is, I never knew that there was a term for it, but it's really a passion for that. And then if you bring my other strength of synthesis, that's, I think, why I love connecting people and being able to listen to what they're doing, listen to what their challenges are, and say, because of my eclectic background, I think I know some resources, or I'd be happy to introduce you. So
that's awesome. It's like a spirit of giving. Yeah, beautiful. Will you tell us about, so you've got some interesting sounding strategies that you've mentioned on your website, like the Bear Upstream method and invisible selling formula. Will you tell us just a little bit about kind of what these are?
The quick version is, and I've shared this with hundreds of entrepreneurs through my mastermind groups, is so many of us, to get customers or to build our businesses or to build our communities, let's say you own a meetup group and you're trying to build that. So many times what I've seen people do is they get all suited up, they get the fishing rod, they get a special lure because a friend or a grandfather told them, oh, this is the lure you need to put on your hook and this is what'll work. And they go out in a river and they cast it and they try to catch a fish. And so the fish is your customer, or it's a person that's you're following, or you're trying to build a community. So I was profoundly impacted by this bear to realize, and then going online and seeing videos of grizzly bears, what I realized was this. Grizzly bears, as a natural law, simply go to the river where the salmon are swimming upstream. They go stand in the river, and then as the fish swim past them, they turn their head and grab the fish. So I said to myself, holy cow, the idea is go where the people are and stop trying to attract them yourself. So if you think about one of the themes in terms of my business is leverage, what I realized was one side of it is mentors and connecting and all of that. But the other is, if you want to build a business or you're trying to grow your business, simply find people that have communities and groups or followings or clients that are the people you want, and simply go talk to them from a place of humility. I call it gee golly gosh shucks, I was just curious, and literally go with that spirit and share with them the story of what you're doing, and then see if there's an opportunity to share that with those people. Quite honestly, in my first 2 consulting companies, that's how I did it.
That's so great.
I mean, I grew those companies so fast because I simply went to people and said, do you know healthcare executives, hospital executives that might be interested in what I'm doing? So it may sound common sense, but what's interesting is it's not always common practice. That's really what I see.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally correct about that. People are spin their wheels a lot when they're starting their businesses. So.
And then the other one would be, as an example, invisible selling formula, which the concept there is stop selling and start enrolling people. And one of the things that I've built for Mastermind members is a set of tools that are education-based tools that you provide a prospect so that before you even get on the phone with them, they've learned so much about your spirit and so on. So I'll give some concrete examples. Obviously today, a lot of people, if they're online, they're running a Facebook ad or whatever they're doing to generate traffic. And then what they're doing is they're giving away a free report. It's called a lead magnet. And then they're having people opt in, put their name and their email address and so on. But what's interesting is the people that are then from there taking you to a short webinar, a pre-recorded webinar, where you don't sell, you don't pitch, you don't do anything. You just talk about, here's my origin story, here's what I'm passionate about, here's how I ended up doing what I'm doing. And then thought these 3 things might be valuable for you and you're not selling. Then at the end of that webinar, you simply are asking somebody, please go to talkwithsteven.com and book an appointment. What's fascinating is I have found what you want to do is you don't do the phone call if they haven't watched the webinar. So that's the online version. What's interesting is in the bricks and mortar world, I created, with the help of my mentor, Joe Polish, a consumer awareness guide for home services. I used to have mastermind groups for maid services and plumbers and electricians. And so they're selling to a homeowner. And so we created concrete, just black and white printed, not fancy glossy stuff, just a document that was every question that a homeowner would need to know or they didn't know to ask. And so that's really the invisible selling formula, is about putting education first and then totally suspending, and I hope people are listening, suspend your whole energy around, I have to get the client. Imagine, I'm giving you another concrete strategy. Imagine if you simply are talking to a prospect so that they're going to refer you to somebody. You're not trying to sell them. You're simply trying to build a relationship with them so that they're going to feel so good about what you do and who you are that they would refer you to a friend, a neighbor, somebody at their church, another business owner. And folks, if you're listening, I really hope you get this, because so many times I see business owners totally focused on scarcity and I have to get the new client, I have to sell them. Stop doing that. It's fascinating. And then the other one would be, I'll give you one, and for those that are listening all the way through, I'm going to give you an opportunity to simply go and get a free resource that's very, very powerful. that has to do with questions that you can ask people, but to transform your relationships. But the one I would say is this: one of the most powerful strategies is ask yourself, or ask your team, or ask your spouse, what do we need to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing? So for instance, once a year, my wife and I sit down and we work on it ahead of time with a piece of paper, and then we come together as a conversation and we identify what do we, I as a husband, and what do we as a couple need to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing, so that we can move forward. So that is what I refer to as a catalytic mechanism. By simply asking that question, it has brain science attached to it, but people tend to be able to link to stops. Stops are the easy ones. It's like we're self-critical. We usually focus on the negative. So people go, stop. I need to stop doing this, stop doing that. That's great. But then give yourself the gift of what you need to start doing. And then with continue, it's about celebrating what you are doing well and what's going on there. So
it's like taking inventory regularly.
Yep, exactly. So even in this conversation, where my passion is that I hope that as people are listening, I'm providing something that's concrete enough, either to shift a paradigm, get them to think of something different, or actually giving them a tool like ask yourself, what do you need to stop doing, start doing, continue doing? Because that's really where my heart is. It's about relationships and providing. And so I would just share, for some people that are listening that may resonate, that is a neat opportunity for you to get kind of either return to or get grounded in, because it is transformational, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, like your story, right? So were you always like this amazing, big thinking, focused out type of person, or did you have some sort of a transformation?
Absolutely. So in terms of transformation, first would be Will Rogers, elder at my church. He owned a used car dealership in Fort Worth, Texas. The joke in Fort Worth was he's the only honest car dealer in town. And he saw something in me and was drawn to me. I'm the only entrepreneur in my entire family. You have to go back 4 generations to where there's a business owner in my family, either my mom's side or my dad's side. So anyway, Will Rogers showed me, believe it or not, at age 15, how to knock on a door and offer 10 months, I was in Texas, 10 months of mowing. Back then it was like $1,200. And to sell the idea that it's $1,200 to work together. And if you sign up today with a deposit of $300, I'll sign you up and I'll give you your preference of what day of the week you'd like to have your yard mowed. Now, folks, this was 1980, 1981, whenever it was. And what I would share with people is, at that time, you would mow the yard, then they would hand you a paper check. And one of the things that Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad made famous was, poor people get paid after the service is done. Wealthy people get paid in advance. I learned that at 15. So that would be number one, that was transformational. And Will Rogers taught me that before Robert Kiyosaki was even out doing Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then Disney made it possible for me to realize that anything is possible. The challenge of that is, when you leave Disney, like I did after 7 years, you are almost like the Wizard of Oz, clicking your heels going, Toto, we're not in Disney World anymore. In other words, you have to realize that there isn't this shared language and people don't see the world the same way. But what I would say is, yes, that's really where I got the big idea in terms of thinking big. And then the third one, to answer your question, would be using my 5-minute secret strategy, which this is the newest book that I've written. And it's really my life work since the age of 19. But with the 5-minute secret, I would say what changed my life or transformed me, and again, it's about other people coming into my life, was by simply using these questions that I discovered in the 5-minute secret. I ended up with starting 5 companies in my lifetime with none of my own money, all with angel investors, individuals, angel investors. Some were CEOs of companies that had been a client and they believed in me and they wanted to be a part of it. But this is the magic, was none of them wanted equity. I didn't give away any percentage of my company. They said, no, you keep your company. So here's the gift. What I would share with people whether it's financial wealth or success, celebrity, whatever way you impact, whatever way you want to measure success of a person in your life, what I would share is this. Once they've arrived at whatever level, however you're measuring it, but as an example, financially, I found that once people had about 30 to $40 million, the trend was life is over. I have to now reinvent myself.
Wow.
So one of my whispers to entrepreneurs out here, or people that want to start a nonprofit, or people that want to start a movement and don't have the money to do it, or people that want to start a new business and don't have the cash to do it, what I would say is this. Imagine if you made a list of people that were uber successful in your eyes, and you simply went and asked them the secret to their success. Because here's what I found out. In those conversations, people turn to you and they go, well, tell me about what you're doing. And then you just very humbly share your story. And what will happen is the person will say, those that are abundance minded will say, oh, I know somebody that would be a really great resource. And so they refer you, or they say, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more. And remember, they're financially set. They're trying to reinvent their lives. They don't need the equity. They don't need the ownership. And here's the secret for business owners. They simply want to be in the game. They want to be a part of, they get the adrenaline from helping build organization. So what blew me away was I ended up, my very first one was a CEO offered me $100,000 to start a consulting firm. And I said, I don't need $100,000. I need $50,000. And he goes like this, I'll wire you $50,000. I'll give you a letter of credit for 50. And if you never use it, you never use it. So here's the idea. I had all these, mindset issues come up in my mind and blah, 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 and I just pushed those away. But here's what happened. The money was wired the next morning, and it was sitting in an account. And I'm like, okay, this is real. Like, this is real. Like, holy cow. And then I never used the letter of credit. It was fascinating. I never used the letter of credit, never needed to. But here's the secret. Number one, when those people do that, you must contact them once a month and let them know what you're doing, what your successes are, what your struggles are, because that is why, for most of them, that is why they gave you the money. Because for most of these people that are affluent, wealthy, money is just energy.
Yeah.
And it's a vehicle. And so they simply want to be a part of your journey. And whenever I would not call one of my angel investors on a monthly basis, their assistant would call me or email me and say, Steven, you better book a time.
Oh, that's great.
So it's about understanding why people do what they do. And the only way you get there is by being fascinated with who they are and what drives them.
Oh my gosh.
And that's really what 5-Minute Secret's all about in terms of teaching that.
So everybody gets to get your book, because wow, it's amazing what you've created with the strategies and information that you're sharing. Thank you so much. And so will you tell us more about this book, The 5-Minute Secret?
Absolutely. So I have taken this concept, this blueprint that I've created, which is the book, The 5-Minute Secret. And what I've done over the last 20 years is I've shared the strategies that worked to more than 3,000 people. And they're college students all the way to literally people that were 70 years old, learned the strategies and said, I can do that. So what's interesting is, so that this is concrete for people, I was 19 years old in college, sitting in a dorm room, and inspired by Tom Peters and a film called In Search of Excellence and a book called In Search of Excellence, which was all about studying companies, about what makes them successful. What happened was I picked up the phone, called 1-800-555-1212 back then, and called Walmart, went up through the phone tree, and then asked for Sam Walton. So here's the question, everybody. I was just curious if Sam Walton would have 5 minutes to share the secret to his success. The assistant goes, oh, that's so sweet. Because I had told her I was a college student when I first, hi, my name's Steven Rowell. I'm a college student. I was just curious. And said, oh, that's so sweet. She puts me on hold for almost 2 minutes, comes back, and you can hear in her voice, she can't believe it. She goes, he'll take your call.
Wow.
Sure enough, Sam Walton talked to me for 2 hours.
Wow.
I then, blown away by that, I then hang up the phone and I call FedEx and I talk to Fred Smith, the founder. Now, here's where my life changed. And this is the other big transformation that you're asking about. The universe, God, whatever, for whatever reason, this question came to me at the end of the Fred Smith. By the way, Fred Smith talked to me for an hour and a half.
Wow.
It was incredible. So here's what happens. I said, Fred, you've been so generous with your time and sharing. I'm just curious. Is there someone else you think would be willing to talk to me? Now, folks, I hope, if nothing else, you get this key point. When you call that other person, you're no longer, oh, how sweet, that little college kid or that 40-year-old adult calling. That's not who you are. Who you are is when I asked Michael Eisner, the CEO of Disney, and he offers, well, have you talked to Roy Disney, Walt's nephew? I said, no, but that'd be incredible. When you're calling, and I was on the Disney college program as an intern back then, and what happens is when you call Roy Disney's office and the assistant answers and you go, hi, my name's Steven Rowell, she interrupts you and goes, oh, Steven, yes, Roy's expecting your call.
Wow.
Now you're connected with Roy Disney. Now here's the secret, everybody. Roy Disney literally said on the phone, any friend of Michael's is a friend of mine. How you doing, Steven? I understand you're on the college program. And then the conversation went. So here's the secret. The second person, that person that the first person refers you to, my 5 angel investors, all of them come from the second phone call. So I call it the halo effect. The notion is you're going to ask this question, you're going to listen, the people are just going to talk. When you say, do you have 5 minutes, tell me the secret to your success, people are going to say, wow, it's a great question, I've never thought about that. That's part of the secret. The second piece of it is legacy and giving back, or wanting to be an abundant spirit. So what happens is when you get referred, now all of a sudden it's not about you, it's about the person that referred you.
Mm.
It's life-changing. And just to share with you, I have college students that I've shared it with that, I mean, literally at Temple Entrepreneurship School in Philadelphia 2 years ago, I spoke to a room of 100 entrepreneur students. 3 of those students using the technique, over about a 4-month period, all 3 of them funded their startups in college, and each of them raised more than $1 million.
Wow, that's incredible.
And they thought it was impossible. So that's really what the 5-minute secret's about. And so just to really remind people, I was just curious if you'd have 5 minutes to tell me the secret to your success. At the end of the call, you've been so generous. Thank you so much. I'm just curious, is there someone else that you think would be willing to talk to me? Now, everybody asked me this question to wrap this up. The secret question that everybody wants to know is, yeah, but what do I have to do? Yeah, but I mean, there's some famous, here's the idea. You don't have to do anything except listen, because of what I've learned is the psychology of this question. You just sit back and listen. It's like sitting on a porch with your grandfather. Just get ready and listen. But somewhere in there, the person will say to you, well, tell me about you. Tell me about your interest. Yeah. The one thing you have to do is be able to be succinct about a passion or your vision or the thing you want to do, and simply share that. Now, true story, for every hour that you're listening, you're only going to talk about 10 minutes, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. So it's not about you. So that's the exciting thing. Mm-hmm. But really, what I'm excited about being on your call is that the spirit of your group is to transform your impact. So I would say that what I'm excited about is this strategy is about accelerating your success and expanding your world, because we don't know what we don't know. And we often get stuck in our own paradigms. So that's really the spirit of why I'm so excited to be here. So thank you, Alexa, for letting me share that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steven. You've been giving us solid gold that we should all apply to our lives and to transform our impact. And thank you for your generosity. And I also hear that you have a free gift for our viewers as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if you go to 5minutesecret.com, so the word 5 spelled out, 5minutesecret.com, what you'll see is the synopsis of the book, 5-Minute Secret. Tells a little bit about the background and the story. But then what you can do is simply opt in by giving your name and email. Now, you're not going to get a ton of emails. In fact, you're not going to get any automated emails. But what you are going to get is that you'll be on a list because I haven't released the book yet. And what I'm going to do for everybody is this. In the publishing world, it's called a galley copy, which is the draft copy of a book before it goes to final publication. What I'm going to do, and I don't do this often, I've done this with, what I'm about to do, I've done with less than 50 people. But because of these people and who they are, your listeners and who they are, what I wanted to offer is this. If you go to 5minutesecret.com, put in your name and email, I will personally, not through an autoresponder, I personally will send you the galley copy of my book before the publisher publishes it.
Awesome.
And ask you for feedback on the book, but also I would love for you to then go and use the techniques and then come back and share with me a story of how it worked for you. And then I would like you to understand that possibly your story will be in the book, which is really cool, because what we're doing is there's a page or page and a half, and they're sprinkled throughout the book of people that, real people that have gone and done it and what they did and how they changed their lives with that. So I'd really like your community to be a part of the 5-Minute Secret. The other thing that's really powerful that I'm giving everybody is this. And this document actually doesn't even exist in this form because I've never given it away. Here's the idea. I'm going to give everybody the 5-Minute Secret Conversation Starter, which is a list of the questions, like I've been talking about, but the questions at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the conversation. So you have the script of what you need to do.
Wow.
And you can actually go and do what I'm offering you to do. One of the things that I have as a real heart for is you go to these webinars and they tell you the what and the why, but they never show you the how. So what I want to do is I want to give your listeners the how. So I'm going to give them the conversation starter script, and they will be able to take that and right away pick up the phone and call people. So before the book's even published, they'll be able to get that list, and that document will allow you to start now. It's not about the book. The other part is I'll send you a galley copy. I'd love to get your feedback. And then you go and use the strategies, and perhaps one of your stories will end up being included in the book. So that's what's exciting.
Massively supportive. Thank you so much. Steven, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so happy to know you, and for our listeners to hear all of your amazing techniques and experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Join us tomorrow for more keys to building success, fulfillment, and making money in your life.